The Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force is the aviation branch of the Iranian Armed Forces. The present Air Force came into being in the early 1980s when the former Imperial Iranian Air Force was renamed. The Air Force has attempted with some success to maintain in service the large number of American-built aircraft which Iran acquired during the Shah's regime. The Air Force has turned to purchases of Soviet and Chinese aircraft, as well as pressing ex-Iraqi aircraft into service, and indigenously built aircraft, in order to maintain a capable force. History. The IRIAF came into being when the former Imperial Iranian Air Force was renamed following the Islamic Revolution in Iran, in February 1979. The British publishing company Orby's Warplane Partwork magazine seems to indicate the renaming did not actually take place until after the Iran-Iraq War had broken out. This new Iranian Air Force largely inherited the equipment and structure of the former IRIAF, even losing most of its leading officers in the course of post-revolutionary chaos, as well as due to the prosecution of those considered as loyal to the Shah, pro-US or elsewhere by the new government in Tehran. Due to strained relations with the West, Iran had to procure new equipment from Brazil, Russia and the People's Republic of China. Since the revolution, the exact composition of the IRIAF is hard to determine, but estimates do exist. Many aircraft belonging to the Iraqi Air Force took refuge in Iran during the Persian Gulf War in 1991, and many were put into service with the IRIAF or taken apart for spare parts. Due to the continuous spare parts shortages faced by the Air Force, a decision was made in the late 1980s to develop a local aerospace industry to support the Air Force. In 2002, Iran, with the cooperation of Ukraine, successfully started the manufacture of the Iran 140, a license-built version of the Antonov An-140 transport aircraft. Simultaneously, Iran began construction of two domestically produced fighters, upgraded using technology from the F-14 Tomcat and the F-5 Tiger II. The fighters have been named the Attribution and the Shah. Since then the country has also become self-sufficient in the manufacture of helicopters. The country claims that it is capable of producing the old USAH-1 Cobra gunship. Additionally, Iran also produces Bell helicopter Bell 212 and Bell 206 helicopters in serial production. These are known respectively as the Shabaviz 2-75 and the Shabaviz 206. Iran-Iraq War. A series of purges and forced retirements resulted in the manpower of the service being halved between February 1979 and July 1980, leaving the IRIAF ill-prepared for the Iran-Iraq War. The sudden Iraqi airstrikes against 6 Iranian airfields and 4 other military installations, launched on the afternoon of September 22, 1980, came as a complete surprise and caused a shock in the IRIAF. The Iranians retaliated with Operation Kaman 99, which involved 206 F-4, F-5 and F-14 aircraft. September 23, 1980, Iran launched Operation Kaman 99 as 40 F-4 Phantoms, armed with Mark 82, Mark 83 and Mark 84 bombs and AGM-65 Maverick missiles, took off from Hamadan. After refueling in mid-air, the Phantoms reached the Iraqi capital Baghdad, where they attacked Al-Rashid, Al-Habaniyah and Al-Qut air bases. Meanwhile, 8 more F-4s took off from Tehran and launched a second attack on the Al-Rashid airbase. Iran launched 58 F-5E Tiger IIs from Tabriz, which was sent to attack Mosul airbase. After the attack on Mosul airbase, 50 F-5Es attacked Nasr II airbase, which was heavily damaged. As all 146 Iranian F-4s and F-5s had been sent for a bombing raid on Iraq, 60 F-14 Tomcats were scrambled to defend Iranian airspace against a possible Iraqi retaliation. Iranian F-14s managed to down 2 Iraqi MiG-21s and 3 Iraqi MiG-23s. An Iranian F-5E also shot down an Iraqi Su-20 during the operation. Iraqi MiG-23s managed to down 2 F-5Es, while Iraqi MiG-21s also downed 2 F-5Es. Iraqis also by mistake shot down one of their own Il-76MD strategic airlifters with a SA-3 SAM. The Iraqis however were well prepared for the attack and had flown over most of their air force to other Arab countries, such as Saudi Arabia. This made sure that most of the Iraqi Air Force survived the operation. Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi military were dealt a heavy blow when Iranian Air Force vulnerabilities failed to materialize. All Iraqi air bases near Iran were out of order for weeks and, according to Iran, Iraq's aerial efficacy was reduced by 55%. This allowed Iranians to regroup and prepare for the upcoming Iraqi invasion. Although the readiness rates of the IRIAF significantly increased in the following months, its overall role and influence declined, as the clerical government prioritized resources for the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps militias and simultaneously attempted to develop a separate air arm for this service. After the successful liberation of most Iranian areas captured by the Iraqis in the first half of 1982, the situation of the IRIAF changed completely. From an air arm that was offensive by nature, it was largely relegated to air defense and relatively infrequent bombing attacks against targets of industrial and military significance inside Iraq. Simultaneously, the IRIAF had to learn how to maintain and keep operational its large fleet of U.S.-built aircraft and helicopters without outside help, due to American sanctions. Relying primarily on antiquated equipment purchased from the USA in the 1970s, the Iranians began establishing their own aerospace industry. Their efforts in this remained largely unrecognized until recently. During 1984 and 1985, the IRIAF found itself confronted by an ever better organized and equipped opponent, as the Iraqi Air Force, reinforced by deliveries of advanced fighter bombers from France and the Soviet Union, launched numerous offensives against Iranian population centers and oil export hubs. These became better known as the Tanker War, and the War of the Cities. To defend against an increasing number of Iraqi airstrikes, the IRIAF leaned heavily on its large fleet of Grumman F-14 Tomcat air superiority fighters. Tomcats were mainly deployed in defense of the strategically important Kark Island, and Tehran. Over 300 air-to-air engagements against IRIAF fighters, fighter bombers, and bombers, were fought in these areas alone between 1980 and 1988. Confronted with the fact that it could not obtain replacements for equipment lost in what became a war of attrition against Iraq, the IRIAF remained defense-orientated for the rest of the conflict, conserving its surviving assets as a force in being. From late 1987, the IRIAF found itself confronted also with U.S. Navy fighters over the Persian Gulf. A number of confrontations that occurred between August 1987 and April 1988 stretched available IRIAF assets to the limit, exhausting its capability to defend Iranian airspace against Iraqi airstrikes. One of the most notable Iranian fighter pilot was Jalal Zandi. His fame came as a F-14 Tomcat pilot. He has been reliably credited with shooting down 11 Iraqi airplanes. Post-Iran-Iraq War. Immediately after the end of the Iran-Iraq War, the IRIAF was partially rebuilt through limited purchases of MiG-29 fighters and Su-24 bombers from the Soviet Union, as well as F-7M and F-T-7 fighters from China. While providing needed reinforcement to the Iranian Air Force, these types never replaced the older, U.S.-built F-4 Phantoms, F-14s, or F-5s. Instead, the IRIAF continued its efforts to keep these types in service, and began a number of projects to refurbish and upgrade them. During the 1991 Persian Gulf War, numerous Iraqi pilots flew Iraqi Air Force aircraft to Iran to avoid destruction by coalition forces. The Iranians impounded these aircraft and never returned them, putting them in service in the IRIAF and claiming them as reparations for the Iran-Iraq War. The aircraft included several Mirage F-1s, MiG-21s, MiG-23s, MiG-29s, Su-20s, Su-22 milliseconds, Su-24s, Su-25s and a number of Il-76s, including the secret, one-off AEWAWACS Il-76ADNAN-1 prototype. Even after the ceasefire with Iraq, the IRIAF carried out several air raids against Kurdish separatists' bases in northern Iraq. The first of such raids was conducted using 8 F-4s armed with rockets and cluster bombs on April 6, 1992 against People's Mujahedin of Iran's Camp Ashraf. During this event one F-4 was shot down by either insurgent or Iraqi military AAA, and both pilots were captured and not freed until 1998. Despite threats of response, Iraq wasn't able to retaliate due to its own fight against Kurdish separatist guerrillas in the Western imposed no-fly zones that crippled and limited its air force's operations. In 2006, after Iranian media published a series of reports suggesting that Venezuela was interested in selling its 21 F-16 Fighting Falcons to Iran, a Hugo Chavez advisor confirmed to the Associated Press that Venezuela's military is considering selling its fleet of U.S.-made F-16 fighter jets to another country, possibly Iran, in response to a U.S. ban on arms sales to President Hugo Chavez's government. In response, Sean McCormack, a U.S. State Department spokesperson, warned Venezuela that without the written consent of the United States, Venezuela can't transfer these defense articles, and in this case F-16s, to a third country. According to Moscow Defense Brief, Russia delivered 6 Su-25 UBK ground attack fighter trainers, 12 Ms-171 Sh military transport helicopters, 21 Ms-171 transport helicopters, and 3 Ms-17 B-5 medical helicopters to Iran between 2000 and 2006. A $700 million repair and modernization program of the IRIAF MiG-29 and Su-24 fighters was also completed. On September 22, 2009, an IRIAF Il-76 collided with an F-5E shortly after an annual parade in Tehran and crashed near Bahrain, killing all 7 people on board. Current composition: the IRIAF composition has changed very little since 1979. The first, very limited relocation of several units, including disbandment of some, and establishing of new squadrons, occurred in autumn 1980, when the F-4D fleet was concentrated at Shiraz. 2 squadrons of F-4s moved from Shiraz to Hamadan, and a squadron of F-14 Tomcats deployed to Murabad. Other deployments during the war with Iraq were mainly of temporary character, even if a major reorganization of existing air defense assets, foremost SAM and AAA units, was undertaken in 1985. There has been no major reorganization during all of the 1990s either. Equipment, capabilities and combat performance of the IRIAF strongly influenced the development of the Iraqi Air Force during the 1980s, but also that of the United Arab Emirates Air Force in the 1990s and the most recent times. Jane's Sentinel Estimate of Units 1993, source, Jane's Sentinel, Islamic Republic of Iran, 1993, PA 27, not complete, 71 ASW Squadron Shiraz, alleged purchases, Su-30. The Jerusalem Post reported that Iran has signed an arms deal with the Russian Rosoboronexport Arms Group to buy 250 Su-30 MKM warplanes and 20 Il-78 MKI aerial tankers. It is reported that Israeli defense officials were investigating the potential Iran-Russia deal, in which Iran would pay $1 billion a dozen squadrons a unregistered trademark worth of the jets. Iran and Russia have both denied this and have rejected these claims as propaganda. In a recent broadcast, the Moon News Agency has reported that they saw a dozen Su-30s in a maneuver that took place on 15 and 16 September 2008. Further, the report reads, in this joint maneuver of the IRIAF and the Afagha, which is called the Guardians of the Nation's Skies, the air forces of Iran have tested domestically developed systems as well as newly purchased systems. The harsh warnings of Israel that it could attack Iran at any time in the Russo-American conflict over Georgia have led to reported weapons sales to Iran by Russia, but so far there have no details been revealed by either side. J10, the Russian news agency Novosti reported that Business and Financial Markets said Iran has signed a deal with China to buy 2 squadrons/24 of J-10 fighter planes with Russian-made AL-31FN engines. The total cost of the planes is estimated at $1 billion, and deliveries are expected between 2008 and 2010. China denied that it had agreed to sell its homegrown fighter jets to Iran, saying no talks had taken place. Foreign Ministry spokesman Liu Yanche told reporters, "It's not true, it is an irresponsible report. China has not had talks with Iran on J-10 jets." JF-17 Thunder. According to Global Security, in July 2003 Hyundai Aircraft Industrial Corporation unveiled the new Euro Super 7 Euro unregistered trademark or Chaki fighter plane to the public. China supposedly received orders from Iran. The plane, now called the FC-1, is an export version of the JF-17 Thunder and entered production in 2006. As of 2008, Iran hasn't received any such plane. Aircraft inventory. Facilities. In the last several years, several new airfields have been constructed in central and eastern Iran. Some of these facilities have since seen full-scale deployments of IRIAF units, and it now appears that at least 2 became permanent tactical fighter bases. These are the first such bases established since 1979. Except new airfields, with Chinese support, the IRIAF constructed also a number of new early warning radar sites around the country. Its ability to control the national airspace, however, remains limited, mainly due to the rugged terrain and lack of airborne early warning assets. Aside from maintaining 14 TFBs, the IRIAF operates numerous temporary detachments on several minor airfields around the country. Ex-Iraqi Mirage F-1EQs, usually based at TFB 14, near Mashhad, were frequently seen over the Persian Gulf, in 2005 and 2006. Markings. The IRIAF markings are only slightly different from those used by the IIAF. The main difference is addition of the word Allah, in red, on the white field of the fin flash, and the text Allahu Akbar, in white, on the bottom of the green, and the top of the red field, though the application of such varies with some aircraft still carrying the simplified tricolor on the tail. It is unknown if this is due to simply saving time and effort, or if these are leftovers from the 1970s. The roundel remains the same as used before. The word Allah is applied also on a number of F-5 Tiger IIs on the top of the fin, and undersides of the port wing of IRIAF F-14 Tomcats. Missiles and rockets. Air-to-air missiles, AIM-7 Sparrow, AIM-9 Sidewinder, AIM-54 Phoenix, Vimpula 27, Vimpula 73, PL-5, air-to-surface missiles. On March 8, 2009, Iran declared that it has successfully armed some of its frontline fighter jets with domestically manufactured long-range air-to-surface missiles, which are capable of hitting targets within a range of more than 110 kilometers at sea. TL-10, TL-6, C-704, C-701, C-801, C-802, AGM-62 Walleye, AGM-65 Maverick, AGM-45 Shrike, AGM-78 Standard, BGM-71 TOW, Zubin, Sattar, Yasser, surface-to-air missiles, MIM-23 Hawk, SM-1, TOR-M1, S-200, Headquarters 2, SA-6, Headquarters 7, RBS-70, SA-7 Grail, SA-16 Gimlet, SA-18 Grouse, Spellout, Peace Ruby and PeaceNet. These 3 programs were instituted by the United States to upgrade the air defense system of Iran. As well as air defense radars, the network was linked using microwave LOS and troposcatter communications networks. Major operations. Operation Gamin 99, Iran's biggest air raid during Iran-Iraq War with a strength of more than 140 aircraft. Operation Scorched Sword, an Iranian airstrike on an Iraqi nuclear reactor under construction. See also, Flying Ace, F-14 Tomcat. Operational history, Iranian aerial victories during the Iran-Iraq War, Iraqi aerial victories during the Iran-Iraq War, list of aces, references, notes. External links, globalsecurity.org,